MLB player pranks fat fan. What she does next leaves the world shocked. The roar of the crowd echoed through the stadium as the Los Angeles Legends took the field, their crisp white uniforms gleaming under the bright stadium lights. It was a perfect evening for baseball, the air electric with excitement as fans waved banners, chanted slogans, and waited for the game to begin. Bethany Miller adjusted her Legends cap, the brim slightly worn from years of use, and settled into her seat in the second row. She was surrounded by die-hard fans, each as passionate as she was about the team. Bethany's love for baseball wasn't just a hobby, it was part of her identity. She had been following the Legends since she was a teenager, finding comfort in the rhythm of the game and the camaraderie of the fans. Tonight was special. Bethany had splurged on tickets near the dugout, hoping to catch a closer glimpse of her favorite players, especially Jake Carter, the team's star shortstop. Jake was a household name, charismatic, talented, and adored by fans. But he also had a reputation for being cocky and a bit of a prankster. As the Legends took their positions on the field, the announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeakers, hyping up the crowd. Between innings, the entertainment crew brought out the team mascot, a giant baseball costume with exaggerated features, and began their usual antics on the field. The mascot waved to the crowd, danced, and threw t-shirts into the stands, delighting fans of all ages. Then, the announcer's voice called out, "We've got a special guest joining us tonight for some mascot fun. Let's give it up for Bethany in row 2, seat 7. Bethany's eyes widened as a spotlight swung to her, illuminating her startled expression. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter as the mascot bounded over, extending a hand to her. Bethany hesitated, her cheeks flushing, but the energy of the crowd pushed her to stand and wave nervously. The mascot gestured for her to follow, and she found herself being led onto the field, her heart pounding. This was supposed to be fun, right? A once-in-a-lifetime moment for a fan? She told herself to relax, to enjoy it. But as she reached the center of the field, something unexpected happened. Jake Carter jogged over, a playful smirk on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into the microphone, "we're about to see who has what it takes to be our honorary mascot for the day." The crowd cheered as Jake motioned to the oversized baseball costume. "Bethany, let's see how you look in this." Before she could react, the mascot began helping her into the costume. The fabric was heavy and awkward, and Bethany struggled to keep her balance as the mascot zipped her up. Jake's grin widened as he gestured for her to wobble around the field, the crowd erupting in laughter at the sight. Bethany tried to laugh along, but the costume was stifling, and she felt every eye in the stadium on her. The cheers and laughter, once exhilarating, now felt like they were at her expense. When she tripped and fell, the crowd roared even louder. Jake laughed and offered a hand to help her up, but his expression didn't carry the sympathy she hoped for. It was all part of the joke to him. The segment ended with the mascot guiding Bethany off the field as the announcer transitioned back to the game. She returned to her seat, her face flushed and her heart heavy. The people around her patted her on the back, some congratulating her for being a good sport, but she could barely muster a smile. Inside, Bethany felt humiliated. What was supposed to be a fun moment had turned into a spectacle, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she had been the punchline of Jake Carter's joke. As the game continued, Bethany sat quietly, replaying the incident in her mind. She glanced at Jake on the field, his confidence and charm on full display as he made an impressive play at shortstop. The crowd cheered his name, but Bethany's admiration for him had soured. She had always thought of him as a hero, but tonight he had shown her another side, one that was careless and dismissive of others. By the time the game ended, Bethany had made up her mind. She wasn't going to let this define her. She had faced challenges before and come out stronger. This would be no different. As she walked out of the stadium, a determined look crossed her face. Jake Carter might have thought he was just having a bit of fun, but he was about to learn that Bethany Miller wasn't someone to be underestimated. Bethany tossed her Legends cap onto her kitchen table, the familiar clang of her keys as they hit the counter punctuating the silence in her small apartment. Her apartment was cozy, with shelves filled with books on sports history, framed photographs of Legends players, and a corkboard covered in ticket stubs from games she had attended over the years. Baseball wasn't just a passion for Bethany, it was a connection to her late father, who had introduced her to the game when she was just a child. As she sank into her couch, the events of the night replayed in her mind like a highlight reel she wished she could erase. The laughter, Jake's smirk, the suffocating costume, it all felt like an assault on her dignity. For years, Bethany had worked to cultivate her confidence, battling the self-doubt that came with constantly being judged for her appearance. She had learned to laugh at herself, to be resilient, but something about this prank had cut deeper. She opened her laptop and began scrolling through social media. Videos of the prank were already circulating, some with mocking captions. Mascot mayhem. Watch this fan take a tumble at the Legends game. Bethany clenched her fists, her stomach knotting as she read the comments. But then, amidst the jokes, she noticed a different kind of response. Some users were calling Jake out for being insensitive. Not cool, Jake. Fans deserve respect. This feels mean-spirited. Poor woman. The criticism was small but growing, and it gave Bethany a glimmer of hope. She wasn't alone in feeling that this wasn't just a harmless joke. Bethany closed her laptop, took a deep breath, and pulled out an old photo album. Flipping through the pages, she stopped at a picture of her younger self, standing proudly with her father at her first Legends game. She was clutching a baseball glove that looked too big for her hand, her dad's arm wrapped around her shoulders. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Baseball's about more than the game, kiddo. It's about heart. It's about never giving up, even when the odds are against you. Bethany smiled through the sting of tears. She wasn't going to let this prank define her. Jake Carter might have thought it was all in good fun, but he had underestimated her. She didn't know exactly what she was going to do yet, but she knew one thing for sure: she was going to turn this moment into something bigger. The next morning, Bethany sat at her desk, scribbling notes in a notebook. She was brainstorming ideas, trying to figure out how to respond to Jake in a way that would send a message, not just to him, but to everyone watching. She didn't want revenge, she wanted to prove a point. She wanted to show that dignity, strength, and self-worth couldn't be taken away by a careless prank. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a text from her best friend, Claire. Claire, saw the video. Are you okay? Bethany hesitated before responding. Bethany, I'm fine. Just trying to figure out what to do next. Claire replied almost instantly. Claire, Jake's a jerk. You should call him out publicly. Bethany frowned. While the idea of publicly shaming Jake might feel satisfying in the short term, it wasn't her style. She wanted to do something that would take the high road, something that would challenge Jake in a way he wouldn't expect. As she mulled over her options, her eyes landed on a flyer pinned to her corkboard. It was an advertisement for a charity baseball tournament hosted by the Legends, an event designed to raise money for local youth sports programs. The tournament was scheduled for the following month, and Jake was slated to be one of the celebrity participants. An idea began to take shape in Bethany's mind. What if she could turn the tables on Jake at the event, not with humiliation, but with empowerment? What if she could use the platform to show him and the world what she was truly capable of? Over the next few weeks, Bethany threw herself into preparation. She dusted off her old baseball glove and headed to a nearby park, where she spent hours practicing her throws and swings. Baseball had always been a part of her life, but it had been years since she had played seriously. Still, the muscle memory was there, and with each practice session, her confidence grew. She also began researching Jake Carter. While his professional stats were impressive, Bethany dug deeper, uncovering interviews, articles, and even old videos of his early career. One story caught her attention: a small, nearly forgotten article from years ago about Jake's struggles as a rookie. He had been benched for half a season after clashing with a coach, and the article hinted at a fragile ego that had been masked by his charm and bravado. Bethany couldn't help but wonder if Jake's behavior stemmed from his own insecurities. The thought didn't excuse what he had done, but it gave her a new perspective. Maybe, just maybe, she could do more than just stand up for herself. Maybe she could show Jake, and everyone else watching, that strength came in many forms. When the day of the charity tournament arrived, Bethany was ready. She wore her Legends jersey with pride, her glove tucked under her arm as she walked onto the field. The stadium was buzzing with excitement, the stands filled with fans eager to see their favorite players up close. Jake Carter was already on the field, chatting with other participants and flashing his trademark grin. When he saw Bethany, his expression shifted to one of surprise. He walked over, his hands in his pockets. "Bethany, right?" he said, his tone cautious. "You're here for the tournament?" Bethany met his gaze, her expression calm but confident. "That's right. I figured I'd give it a shot." Jake chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his neck. "Look, about the other night, I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. It was just supposed to be a fun moment." Bethany nodded. "I get that. But fun isn't fun when it's at someone else's expense." Jake's smile faltered, and for the first time, Bethany saw a flicker of self-awareness in his eyes. "You're right," he admitted. "I messed up." Bethany didn't let him off the hook completely. "You did. But you have a chance to make it right?" Jake tilted his head, curious. "How?" Bethany smiled. "Let's settle it on the field." Jake's eyes widened. "You want to play against me?" Bethany's smile didn't waver. "Not just against you. With you. Let's make this about more than a prank. Let's make it about showing people what baseball is really about: heart, respect, and community." Jake stared at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Let's do it." The tournament kicked off with an energy that was infectious. Bethany and Jake were placed on opposing teams, their friendly rivalry adding an extra layer of excitement to the event. As the game progressed, Bethany held her own, her throws precise and her swings powerful. The crowd cheered her on, many of them recognizing her from the video of the prank and rooting for her redemption. Jake, for his part, played with a new sense of humility. When Bethany struck him out in one inning, he tipped his cap to her, earning an uproarious cheer from the crowd. The two began to banter between plays, their dynamic shifting from adversaries to something more cooperative. By the end of the game, Bethany's team emerged victorious, but the real win was the sense of camaraderie and respect that had developed between her and Jake. As they stood on the field for the closing ceremony, Jake took the microphone. "I want to take a moment to recognize Bethany," he said, his voice carrying across the stadium. "She came here today and showed us what real strength looks like, not just in baseball but in character. Bethany, you're a true inspiration." The crowd erupted into applause, and Bethany felt a warmth spread through her. She had turned a moment of humiliation into an opportunity for growth, not just for herself but for Jake as well. The charity tournament had been a resounding success, and Bethany couldn't help but smile as she scrolled through her phone later that evening. Social media was abuzz with highlights from the game, her impressive plays, Jake's humility, and the unexpected camaraderie that had blossomed between them. The video of Jake's heartfelt speech had gone viral, with comments praising both of them for turning a potentially humiliating situation into a moment of inspiration. One comment stood out to Bethany: "This is the kind of story baseball needs, real people showing what the game is all about." It struck a chord with her. This wasn't just about the prank anymore. It was about using her voice to create a positive message. Bethany closed her phone and leaned back on her couch, her mind buzzing with ideas. For so long, she had been content to watch from the sidelines, cheering for her team and quietly loving the game. But now she realized she had something to offer, not just to baseball fans, but to anyone who had ever been underestimated or dismissed. The next morning, Bethany woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She pulled out her notebook, the one she had used to brainstorm her response to Jake's prank, and began writing again. This time, her focus was on creating something bigger, a platform where she could share stories of resilience, sportsmanship, and personal growth. She decided to call it Heart of the Game. Meanwhile, Jake Carter was sitting in the Legends locker room, staring at the framed jersey hanging above his locker. It bore his name and number, a symbol of everything he had achieved in his career. But for the first time, he felt conflicted about what that jersey represented. The prank had been meant as a light-hearted moment, a way to entertain the crowd. But seeing Bethany's courage and grace had forced Jake to confront a part of himself he had long ignored. He thought back to his rookie days, the insecurity and frustration that had fueled his cocky persona. He had told himself that arrogance was necessary to succeed, but now he wasn't so sure. Jake picked up his phone and pulled up Bethany's social media profile. Her posts were a mix of game day snapshots, motivational quotes, and updates about her new platform, Heart of the Game. Jake hesitated for a moment, then sent her a direct message. Jake, hey, Bethany. I just wanted to say thanks again for what you did at the tournament. You really opened my eyes, and I'm sorry for the way I treated you before. If there's anything I can do to support what you're working on, let me know. To his surprise, Bethany responded almost immediately. Bethany, thanks, Jake. I appreciate that. Actually, there is something you can do. A week later, Bethany and Jake sat across from each other in a small recording studio. Bethany had invited Jake to be the first guest on her new podcast, part of the Heart of the Game platform. The idea was to have candid conversations about resilience, growth, and the lessons learned through sports. Welcome to the first episode of Heart of the Game, Bethany said, her voice steady as she spoke into the microphone. I'm your host, Bethany Miller, and today I'm joined by someone who's taught me a lot about humility, growth, and second chances, Jake Carter. Jake smiled sheepishly, adjusting his headphones. Thanks for having me, Bethany. I'm honored to be here. The two spent the next hour discussing their shared love of baseball, the challenges they had faced, and the lessons they had learned from each other. Bethany shared her journey of rediscovering her confidence after the prank, while Jake opened up about his struggles with ego and the pressures of being in the public eye. What I realized, Jake said, his tone reflective, is that being a great player isn't just about stats or highlights. It's about how you treat people, both on and off the field. Bethany, you reminded me of that, and I'm grateful. Bethany smiled, her confidence shining through. And you reminded me that even when someone makes a mistake, they can choose to grow from it. That's what this platform is all about, showing people that we're all capable of change. The episode ended with a message of encouragement for listeners, to never let setbacks define them and to always strive for growth. By the time the podcast was uploaded, it was already gaining traction, with listeners praising the honest and heartfelt conversation. In the weeks that followed, Heart of the Game grew rapidly. Bethany began sharing more stories from fans, players, and even coaches, highlighting moments of resilience and sportsmanship. She hosted live events and workshops, using her platform to inspire others to embrace their strengths and overcome their challenges. Jake became a frequent collaborator, volunteering at Bethany's events and using his celebrity status to draw attention to the cause. Their partnership became a beacon of positivity in the sports world, showing that even the most unexpected connections could lead to something meaningful. One memorable event was a youth baseball clinic hosted at the Legends Stadium. Bethany and Jake worked side by side, coaching kids and sharing their stories. The highlight of the day came when a young girl approached Bethany, clutching a baseball in her small hands. "Miss Bethany," she said shyly, "I saw your video. You're really brave." Bethany knelt down, her heart swelling. "Thank you, sweetheart. Do you play baseball?" The girl nodded. "But sometimes the boys make fun of me. They say I'm not good enough." Bethany placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Don't ever let anyone tell you that. You belong on that field just as much as anyone else. And if they don't see that, prove them wrong." The girl's eyes lit up, and Bethany handed her the ball. "Keep this as a reminder that you're stronger than you think." As Heart of the Game continued to flourish, Bethany reflected on how far she had come since that fateful night at the Legends game. What had started as a moment of humiliation had turned into a movement that was changing lives, including her own. She had found her voice, her purpose, and her strength. Jake, too, had undergone a transformation. He had become a better player, teammate, and person, using his platform to advocate for kindness and respect in sports. His partnership with Bethany had not only repaired his reputation but also deepened his understanding of what it meant to be a true role model. One evening, as Bethany and Jake sat in the dugout after an event, Jake turned to her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, Bethany," he said, "I used to think baseball was the only thing that defined me. But now I see it's just a part of who I am. You helped me realize that." Bethany smiled, looking out at the empty field. "And you helped me realize that even when life throws you a curveball, you can still knock it out of the park." The two laughed, their friendship stronger than ever. The stadium lights cast a warm glow as they sat there, reflecting on the journey that had brought them together. a journey of resilience, redemption, and the heart of the game. Bethany sat at her kitchen table, staring at the list of upcoming events for Heart of the Game. Her platform had grown faster than she ever anticipated, and with the support of Jake Carter, it had become a movement that transcended sports. Schools were reaching out to host motivational talks, community centers were asking for workshops, and even corporations were expressing interest in sponsoring their events. She took a sip of coffee and leaned back, her mind buzzing with ideas. It was hard to believe how far she had come since that humiliating night at the Legends game. What had started as a small act of resilience had turned into a mission to inspire others to find their strength and stand up for themselves. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Jake, got a call from a producer at Sports Network. They want to do a feature on us. What do you think?" Bethany smiled. The media attention had been building steadily, and while she wasn't entirely comfortable with the spotlight, she knew it was an opportunity to amplify their message. "Bethany, let's do it. It could help us reach more people." Jake responded immediately. "Jake, great. I'll handle the details. You just focus on being awesome." Bethany chuckled, shaking her head. Jake had become one of her biggest supporters, and their friendship had blossomed into a genuine partnership. While they came from vastly different worlds, they shared a common goal: to make a difference. The feature aired 2 weeks later, a half-hour segment that showcased the journey of Heart of the Game. The producers had followed Bethany and Jake through a series of events, capturing moments of laughter, reflection, and empowerment. The footage included everything from Bethany coaching kids at a youth clinic to Jake sharing his own struggles during a live podcast recording. One particularly poignant scene showed Bethany speaking to a group of high school students. She stood in front of the room, her voice steady as she recounted her experience of being pranked by Jake and how it had motivated her to take control of her narrative. "It wasn't easy," she said, her gaze sweeping across the room. "But I realized that I had a choice. I could let that moment define me, or I could use it to grow stronger. And that's what I want all of you to remember. You are more than the challenges you face. You have the power to write your own story." The audience erupted into applause, and the cameras caught Jake in the background, his expression one of admiration and pride. By the time the feature ended, the hashtag Heart of the Game was trending on social media. Fans flooded Bethany and Jake's accounts with messages of support, sharing their own stories of resilience and growth. Despite the success, Bethany found herself facing new challenges. As the platform grew, so did the scrutiny. Some critics dismissed her as a one-hit wonder who was riding the coattails of Jake's fame. Others questioned her qualifications, claiming she didn't have the credentials to lead such a movement. Bethany tried to brush off the negativity, but it wasn't always easy. One evening, after a particularly harsh comment went viral, she called Jake. "Do you ever feel like no matter what you do, it's never enough?" she asked, her voice heavy with doubt. Jake paused before responding. "All the time," he admitted. "But then I remember why I'm doing it." "Bethany, you've already helped so many people. Don't let a few trolls take that away from you." His words brought her some comfort, but it was a meeting with a fan a few days later that truly lifted her spirits. A woman in her 40s approached Bethany after a workshop, her eyes filled with emotion. "I just wanted to thank you," the woman said. "My daughter saw your podcast and decided to try out for her school's softball team. She's always been shy, but seeing you gave her the courage to believe in herself." Bethany felt tears prick her eyes as she hugged the woman. Moments like this reminded her of the impact she was making, and they fueled her determination to keep going. Jake, too, was navigating his own challenges. While he had embraced his role as a supporter of Heart of the Game, he was still working to rebuild his reputation within the MLB. Some of his teammates had mocked his involvement in what they saw as a feel-good campaign, and the media occasionally painted him as a player who had lost his edge. But Jake didn't care. For the first time in years, he felt like he was playing for something bigger than himself. And as he continued to collaborate with Bethany, he found that his passion for the game had been reignited. One day, after a particularly grueling practice, Jake sat down with his coach, a grizzled veteran who had seen it all. "You're different these days," the coach said, studying him carefully. "What changed?" Jake thought for a moment before answering. "I stopped playing just for me. I found something worth fighting for. The coach nodded, a rare smile breaking across his face. Keep that fire, Carter. It suits you. As the months passed, Heart of the Game reached new heights. Bethany and Jake were invited to speak at conferences, appear on talk shows, and even collaborate with other organizations. They used their platform to raise money for youth sports programs, support anti-bullying campaigns, and promote inclusivity in athletics. One of their most ambitious projects was a nationwide tour, visiting schools and communities across the country to share their message. The tour culminated in a massive event at the Legends Stadium, where thousands of fans gathered to celebrate the power of resilience and teamwork. Bethany stood on the pitcher's mound, microphone in hand, as she addressed the crowd. "Tonight is about more than baseball," she said, her voice carrying through the stadium. "It's about showing the world that no matter who you are or where you come from, you have the strength to overcome any obstacle. You have the heart of the game." The crowd erupted into cheers, and Bethany felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She looked over at Jake, who gave her a thumbs up from the dugout, his smile reflecting the bond they had built. As the event drew to a close, Bethany and Jake stood together on the field, watching as fans took photos and shared stories. The stadium lights bathed them in a warm glow, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. "You know," Jake said, breaking the silence, "if someone had told me a year ago that a prank would lead to all this, I wouldn't have believed them." Bethany laughed. "Me neither. But I'm glad it did." Jake turned to her, his expression serious. "You've changed my life, Bethany. And I'm not just talking about baseball. You've shown me what it means to be a better person." Bethany smiled, her eyes shining. "And you've shown me that even the most unexpected connections can lead to something incredible." They stood there for a moment, the roar of the crowd fading into the background. In that instant, they knew that their journey wasn't just about redemption, it was about creating a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Months after the launch of Heart of the Game, Bethany found herself in unfamiliar territory, a sleek conference room in a high-rise building overlooking the city. Across the table sat representatives from a major athletic apparel company, their polished appearances and confident smiles making it clear they meant business. "We love what you've built," said Sarah, the company's marketing director. "Heart of the Game embodies the values we want to promote: resilience, inclusivity, and community. We'd like to partner with you on a nationwide campaign." Bethany's heart raced. She had never imagined her platform would attract attention from such a powerful brand. But she also knew she needed to stay true to her mission. "What would that partnership look like?" she asked, keeping her tone professional. Sarah leaned forward, sliding a proposal across the table. "We'd sponsor your events, provide funding for your programs, and collaborate on creating content that aligns with your message. In return, we'd feature Heart of the Game in our campaigns and tie it to our new line of sportswear." Bethany studied the proposal, her mind racing. It was an incredible opportunity, but it also came with risks. She didn't want Heart of the Game to lose its authenticity or become a marketing tool for a corporation. Before she could respond, Jake spoke up. He had accompanied her to the meeting, his experience in the spotlight proving invaluable as Heart of the Game grew. "Bethany's built something special," he said, his voice calm but firm. "If we're going to partner, it has to be on her terms. This isn't just a brand, it's a movement." Sarah nodded, clearly impressed. "Of course. We're open to working together to ensure the partnership aligns with your vision." Bethany looked at Jake, his confidence bolstering her own. She smiled and extended her hand to Sarah. "Let's do it." The partnership was a game changer. With the athletic company's support, Heart of the Game expanded its reach, launching new programs and events across the country. Bethany became a sought-after speaker, her journey inspiring countless people to embrace their own resilience and strength. But as the platform grew, so did the pressure. Bethany found herself juggling an overwhelming schedule, flying from city to city and barely having time to catch her breath. Jake noticed the toll it was taking on her and decided to step in. "Bethany," he said one evening after an event, "you need to take a break." She shook her head, her expression resolute. "I can't. There's too much to do." Jake placed a hand on her shoulder. "You can't pour from an empty cup. You've done so much already. It's okay to step back and recharge." Bethany sighed, the weight of his words sinking in. I just don't want to let anyone down. You won't, Jake said gently. In fact, taking care of yourself will only make you stronger. You've taught me that strength isn't just about pushing through, it's about knowing when to rest. Bethany nodded, tears welling in her eyes. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to slow down, trusting that her team and Jake could handle things while she took a much-needed break. During her time off, Bethany reconnected with the things that grounded her: long walks in the park, quiet evenings with friends, and afternoons spent watching baseball games from the stands instead of the dugout. She began journaling, reflecting on her journey and the lessons she had learned along the way. One afternoon, as she sat on her couch flipping through old photos, she came across a picture of herself at the charity tournament. It was a candid shot of her laughing with Jake, both of them covered in dirt after a particularly competitive play. The photo captured not just the moment but the transformation they had both undergone. Bethany smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that Heart of the Game wasn't just about inspiring others, it was about staying true to herself and the values she had built it on. Meanwhile, Jake was having his own moment of reflection. He had embraced his role as a co-leader of Heart of the Game, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. While he loved working with Bethany and the platform, he missed the game itself. One evening he called Bethany. I've been thinking, he said, his tone hesitant. I want to get back to playing full-time. Bethany was silent for a moment, processing his words. You're leaving Heart of the Game? No, Jake said quickly. I'll always be a part of it. But baseball is my first love, and I feel like I have more to give. I just need to find a balance. Bethany smiled, understanding his dilemma. Then do it, Jake. You've already proven you're more than just a player. Go show the world what that looks like. Jake's gratitude was palpable. Thanks, Beth. You've taught me more than I can put into words. And you've reminded me to always keep swinging, she replied with a laugh. Jake's return to the MLB was met with mixed reactions. Some fans were thrilled to see him back on the field, while others questioned whether his time away had dulled his skills. But Jake was determined to prove himself, not just as a player but as a leader. He brought the lessons he had learned from Heart of the Game to the dugout, mentoring younger teammates and fostering a sense of unity within the team. His performance on the field was sharper than ever, and his humility off the field earned him the respect of fans and critics alike. During a post-game interview, a reporter asked him about his involvement with Heart of the Game. It's not just a platform, Jake said, his expression earnest. It's a reminder that we're all capable of growth. Baseball taught me how to play, but Heart of the Game taught me how to live. As Heart of the Game entered its second year, Bethany and Jake reunited for a special anniversary event at the Legends Stadium. The event brought together fans, players, and supporters from all walks of life, celebrating the movement's impact and the stories it had inspired. Bethany stood on the pitcher's mound, microphone in hand, as she addressed the crowd. This journey started with a prank, she said, her voice carrying through the stadium. But it turned into something so much bigger. It became a story of resilience, redemption, and the power of community. And it wouldn't have been possible without all of you. The crowd erupted into cheers, their energy filling the air. Bethany turned to Jake, who stood beside her, and handed him the microphone. Bethany's the heart of this movement, Jake said, his tone filled with admiration. She's shown us that strength isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, no matter what. And I'm honored to stand beside her. As the event drew to a close, Bethany and Jake threw out the ceremonial first pitch together, the crowd's cheers echoing through the night. In that moment, they knew they had created something lasting, a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The cheers from the stadium echoed in Bethany's mind long after the anniversary event had ended. Sitting in her quiet apartment that night, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. It was surreal to think that a single humiliating moment had grown into a platform that was changing lives across the country. She had turned her vulnerability into strength, her shame into power, and now Heart of the Game was inspiring others to do the same. Bethany opened her laptop and began writing a blog post for the platform. She titled it, "From the Sidelines to the Spotlight: What Baseball Taught Me About Life." In it, she shared her story, Not just the prank and the aftermath, but the moments before and after that shaped her resilience. She wrote about the lessons her father had instilled in her, the strength she found in her love for baseball, and how she learned to transform challenges into opportunities. The post went live the next morning and quickly gained traction. Comments poured in from fans and followers who resonated with her words. "I've struggled with self-doubt my whole life, but this gave me hope. Thank you for sharing your story, Bethany. You've inspired me to believe in myself again. This platform is exactly what the world needs right now." Bethany felt a renewed sense of purpose as she read the comments. Heart of the Game wasn't just a movement, it was a community. And that community was growing stronger every day. Meanwhile, Jake's return to the MLB was proving to be one of the most fulfilling chapters of his career. The humility he had gained through Heart of the Game translated into his leadership on and off the field. His teammates looked to him for guidance, and he embraced the role of mentor with open arms. One afternoon, during a team practice, a rookie named Tyler approached Jake. Tyler had been struggling with his performance and was clearly frustrated. "Jake," Tyler said, hesitating, "I don't think I'm cut out for this. Every time I make a mistake, it feels like the end of the world." Jake placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder, his expression thoughtful. "You know, I used to feel the same way. I thought every error, every strikeout, defined who I was as a player. But then I learned something important. Baseball is a game of failure. The best hitters in the world only succeed 3 out of 10 times. It's not about being perfect, it's about how you bounce back." Tyler nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Thanks, Jake. I needed to hear that." Jake smiled. "Anytime. And remember, every great player was a rookie once." The partnership between Bethany and Jake continued to evolve, but as they both pursued their individual paths, they began to realize how much they relied on each other. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, Bethany called Jake. "Hey," she said, her voice tired but warm. "You busy?" "Not for you," Jake replied. "What's up?" Bethany hesitated, then sighed. "I just needed to talk. Sometimes it feels like no matter how much I do, there's always more to be done. And I'm afraid of letting people down." Jake's tone softened. "Bethany, you've already done more than most people could even dream of. You've changed lives, including mine. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but don't forget to give yourself credit for everything you've accomplished." Bethany smiled, her heart lighter. "Thanks, Jake. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You do just fine," Jake said with a chuckle. "But I'm glad I'm here to remind you anyway." As Heart of the Game entered its 3rd year, Bethany and Jake decided to embark on their most ambitious project yet, a documentary chronicling the impact of the platform. The film, titled The Heart of It All, would feature stories from fans, players, and communities whose lives had been touched by their work. The project took them across the country, from small-town baseball fields to major league stadiums. They interviewed young athletes who had found confidence through the platform, parents who had been inspired to support their children's dreams, and even rival players who had embraced a new sense of sportsmanship. One story that stood out was that of a young boy named Liam, who had been bullied for his weight and struggled to fit in with his peers. Through Heart of the Game, Liam had found a safe space to play baseball and build his confidence. His parents shared how the platform had transformed their son's life, and Liam himself spoke with a quiet but growing confidence. "I used to think I didn't belong," Liam said, his voice steady. "But now I know I do. And I'm not afraid to show it." Bethany and Jake were moved to tears, and they knew Liam's story would become a central part of the documentary. The premiere of The Heart of It All was held at the Legend Stadium, where it all began. Fans, supporters, and media filled the stands, eager to witness the culmination of years of work. As the film played on the big screen, the audience laughed, cried, and cheered. The stories of resilience and triumph resonated deeply, reminding everyone of the power of community and the importance of never giving up. When the credits rolled, Bethany and Jake took to the stage, overwhelmed by the standing ovation that greeted them. "Thank you," Bethany said, her voice filled with emotion. "This journey has been more than I ever imagined. But it's not about me or even Jake. It's about all of you, the fans, the players, the families, who remind us every day why we do what we do." You are the heart of this movement. Jake stepped forward, his voice steady. Bethany's right. This isn't just a platform, it's a reminder that we're all capable of greatness, no matter where we start. Thank you for believing in us, and for being part of this incredible journey. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the stadium. As Bethany and Jake stood side by side, they knew they had created something that would outlast them. A legacy of hope, strength, and unity. In the months that followed, the heart of it all became a cultural phenomenon, sparking conversations about resilience and inclusivity in sports and beyond. Bethany and Jake continued to grow their platform, but they also found time to focus on their own lives. For Bethany, that meant pursuing new creative projects, from writing a memoir to designing programs for underserved communities. For Jake, it meant balancing his MLB career with his passion for mentorship, using his platform to inspire the next generation of players. Their friendship remained the foundation of everything they built, a partnership that had turned a single prank into a movement that changed the world. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the stadium bleachers, Bethany turned to Jake with a smile. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" she asked. Jake laughed, shaking his head. "All the time. If you told me back then that we'd end up here, I would have thought you were crazy." Bethany grinned. "It's funny how life works, isn't it? One moment can change everything." Jake nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Yeah. And I'm glad it did." As the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat in comfortable silence, two people who had faced their fears, embraced their flaws, and found strength in each other. Together, they had shown the world what it truly meant to have the heart of the game. The release of the heart of it all didn't just draw attention to Bethany and Jake's platform, it ignited a national conversation about resilience, inclusivity, and the transformative power of sports. Social media platforms buzzed with the hashtag heart of the game as people shared their own stories of overcoming challenges, finding community, and redefining what it meant to be strong. One of the most powerful ripple effects came from a small-town high school in the Midwest. Inspired by Liam's story in the documentary, the school's baseball coach, Coach Morgan, decided to implement new programs focused on building confidence and camaraderie among players. Coach Morgan had been coaching for over 20 years, and while he had always emphasized winning, the film made him realize that his approach needed to evolve. At the next team meeting, he addressed his players with a newfound sense of purpose. "Baseball isn't just about winning games," he told them. "It's about building each other up, on and off the field. From now on, this team is a family. We're going to support each other, celebrate each other's strengths, and face challenges together." The changes were immediate. The team began holding weekly check-ins where players could share their struggles and offer encouragement. They organized community service projects, helping local kids learn the game and feel included. And when one player, Marcus, opened up about his anxiety and fear of failing, the team rallied around him, creating a supportive environment that allowed him to thrive. Marcus's mother, who had worried about her son's self-esteem for years, wrote a heartfelt letter to Heart of the Game. "Thank you for inspiring my son and his team to see beyond the game," she wrote. "For the first time, Marcus feels like he belongs. You've given him more than confidence, you've given him hope." Bethany and Jake read the letter together during one of their weekly meetings, their hearts swelling with pride. "This is what it's all about," Bethany said, her voice tinged with emotion. "It's not just about us. It's about the lives we're touching, the communities we're inspiring." Jake nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I never thought a prank could lead to something like this." "It's humbling, isn't it?" Bethany smiled. "It is. And it makes me want to do even more." Another ripple effect of the documentary appeared in an unlikely place, a corporate boardroom in Silicon Valley. A tech company, known for its high-pressure work environment, had been struggling with employee morale and retention. The CEO, a former collegiate athlete, watched the heart of it all with his teenage daughter and found himself deeply moved. The next morning, he called a meeting with his executive team. "We've lost sight of what makes a team successful," he told them. "It's not just about profits and performance, it's about trust, respect, and supporting each other. I want to bring those values into our workplace." The company launched a series of initiatives inspired by Heart of the Game, including team-building retreats, mental health resources, and mentorship programs. They even partnered with local youth sports organizations, donating equipment and sponsoring clinics to give back to the community. Within a year, the company's employee satisfaction scores soared, and its retention rates improved dramatically. Employees began sharing their stories with Bethany and Jake, thanking them for sparking a cultural shift that made their workplace more humane. One of the most unexpected effects of the documentary came from a group of veterans who had formed a recreational baseball league as a way to cope with the challenges of civilian life. The league, which had started as a small group of friends tossing a ball around, grew into a tight-knit community of men and women who found solace and connection through the game. When the league members saw the heart of it all, they felt an immediate kinship with the message of resilience and unity. They reached out to Heart of the Game, inviting Bethany and Jake to visit one of their games and speak to the group. The visit was a profound experience for both Bethany and Jake. The veterans shared stories of how baseball had helped them process trauma, build camaraderie, and rediscover a sense of purpose. One veteran, a soft-spoken man named Daniel, told them how the league had saved his life. "I was in a dark place after coming home," he admitted, his voice trembling. "But this game and these people gave me a reason to keep going. And your documentary reminded me that we're all stronger together." Bethany and Jake left the game deeply moved, vowing to continue supporting initiatives that brought people together through sports. They even collaborated with the league to create a mini-documentary, showcasing the veterans' stories and highlighting the healing power of community. As the months went by, Heart of the Game became more than a movement. It became a cultural phenomenon. Schools incorporated the documentary into their curricula, using it as a teaching tool for lessons on empathy, teamwork, and resilience. Youth sports programs adopted the platform's values, prioritizing inclusivity and sportsmanship over competition. Bethany and Jake were invited to speak at global conferences, where they shared their journey with audiences ranging from educators to business leaders. But no matter how far their message reached, they remained grounded in the relationships and stories that had inspired them from the start. One day, Bethany received a letter from Liam, the boy whose story had been featured in the original documentary. Now a teenager, Liam wrote about how his life had changed since joining Heart of the Game. "I'm not afraid anymore," Liam wrote. "I've made friends who support me, and I'm learning to love myself for who I am. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Bethany kept the letter in her desk drawer, a reminder of why she had started the platform in the first place. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about giving people the tools to find their own strength and inspiring them to lift each other up. Jake, too, found himself reflecting on the impact of their work. During a post-game interview, a reporter asked him how Heart of the Game had influenced his career. "It's changed everything," Jake said without hesitation. "I used to think being a great player was all about stats and highlights. But now I know it's about how you make people feel. It's about being a role model on and off the field." The reporter smiled. "And what's next for Heart of the Game?" Jake glanced at the camera, a glimmer of determination in his eyes. "Whatever it takes to keep inspiring people. Because this isn't just a movement, it's a way of life." As the platform continued to grow, Bethany and Jake remained at the heart of it, their friendship stronger than ever. Together, they proved that resilience wasn't just about overcoming challenges, it was about transforming them into opportunities to connect, inspire, and create change. Their story became a testament to the power of community and the enduring strength of the human spirit. And as the world embraced the values of Heart of the Game, Bethany and Jake knew they had created something truly timeless, a legacy that would continue to ripple outward, touching lives in ways they could only imagine.